Build Propulsion Lab at DevNexus 2024. My next guest is Enrique. Hi.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about something very, very interesting. Focusing on software instead of focusing on code. What does it mean? Isn't it the same thing?
No, obviously, we're in the business of building software.
Yes, we are.
Correct?
Yes.
Especially
That's what
your product does.
Yeah.
But there's been a big focus on code, but like exclusively on code in recent years. Even you can see it with people calling themselves coders.
Yes.
When I started 30 years ago on this industry, and I used to call myself just a programmer. And then it became software developer, and then now software engineer. But now people like to call themselves coders, and it's just like very narrow term, not, like it means that you write code, but we're not supposed to write code, are we? I mean, yes, that's how you create software, but we're supposed to be creating software, delivering software for our customers in whatever job we have. And just focusing on the code is that it's one of the parts, and it's obviously an important part of the whole process, but it's just one part. And we need to focus on everything as engineers.
So what does it mean focusing on software? Okay, so code is a very narrow part. What are the others? What else do we need to think of? Especially if we are just software developers, right?
Right.
It looks like our job is writing code. What else should we think of?
Do you remember the DevOps movement?
It's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
But I think initially the idea of DevOps was, we have a saying in Mexico, which is, it's your dog, you wash it. Right? So I think the idea behind DevOps, as I understood it initially, was, okay, you're writing your code, you're creating the software, now you run it.
Yep.
But you
exactly.
have to operate it.
Yep.
Because if we make the creators of the software, the engineers, operate the software, then it gives you a whole new dimension, because now you're thinking about how it will run. But somehow this got distorted, and now you have engineers still just writing the code, and you have other engineers, the DevOps, writing a lot of software and writing a lot of code to automate turning this code into software and running it and operating it and monitoring it.
Yep.
But then the guys on this side, the people, the coders, are still just coding. So they kind of, I don't know how it was like a Jedi mind trick. And now the DevOps are doing that job instead of the coders becoming DevOps. So now we're in the same place, but even worse, because now we have two types of engineers doing this stuff.
You're 100% on spot on, and obviously I'm very passionate about DevOps and about the wrong way of doing DevOps, and then having DevOps engineers and then having software engineers and then they don't talk to each other, and then we'll almost need a new methodology that will bridge the gap between dev and DevOps. We can call it DevDevOps.
Right.
Right?
And
Obviously this is absurd, and that's because that kind of defeats the purpose of DevOps, right? Having DevOps engineers that are completely disconnected from developers. And I always looked at that, and I don't want to assign blame, but I think both parties are responsible, and I think there is a very good human reason for that. And this is because this shit is hard.
Oh, yes.
Right? Both of them. And then if I concentrate on coding, it's complicated enough that I don't really want to learn Kubernetes and all the other crap. And if I'm excited about infrastructure as code and Kubernetes and cloud platforms and it's not, I really don't have the time and the capacity to actually mastering a programming language like Java or Go or anything like that. Our cognitive abilities are limited, so our investment in one of those two parts is very natural.
But don't you think that also maybe by having this divide, now we have, I think another reason might be that people want to write code.
Exactly.
So when we have the engineer and telling them to run the software, and then the DevOps are born and they say no, but we also want to write code.
Okay.
And they kind of become the new admins, and because we have more people writing code and creating more software, we have now this whole new levels of complexity that we didn't have before, and now we have to manage it too. It's more software to handle. There has been progress because, today the tools we have for observability, for monitoring, all these metrics that we have, all the automation for the birth of CI and CD, all the continuous delivery stuff. It's great. It's great, but that also kind of create this silo again, where the coders can just code, and they forget about the end game, which is running the software. So I don't know if we are going to fix it with a process. I think we need to have this more holistic approach to software and think about what you're creating. You're not typing code. 30 years ago, I met a programmer who told me, "You're writing software," and it sounded so weird in Spanish, but in English, I've heard many people mention that term, writing software, and that's what it's all about. You're not writing code. You should be writing software. There is a difference in thinking about what this thing is going to do when you run it. Not just whether it looks nice or it's elegant or clever. Nobody will care about that. People will care about when this is running, how it's running.
So this is another aspect of kind of multidiscipline that we expected to look at. Not only writing code that works and knowing how to deploy it, but also looking at the product, whether it actually helps the users that are going to use it to achieve what they're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
So it's now the dev, the ops, but also the product or the business part that we need to look at.
You need to be thinking of your users and your customers when you're writing the code.
Yep.
Because that's all that matters in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Enrique, thank you very much. That makes tons of sense. I try to argue with you, just being the devil's advocate, but obviously I completely agree. And but I'm personally very passionate about this topic as well. So we are in violent agreement here. Thank you very much for coming, and you stay tuned for more episodes of the Propulsion Lab at DevNexus 2024. Thank you, and bye-bye.